Hey everyone, so welcome back to episode 4 of our Let's Talk series, and today we're going to be talking about beginner casting on and doing socks from the toe up. So my name is Kai and I am here from my living room and windows open, and I live in Vegas, so it's hot, so sorry if you can hear the talking outside. But without further ado, let's get right into the video. So I am a beginner knitter. I predominantly crochet, but I really wanted to knit a pair of socks, so that's why I started knitting. And officially I have created only one sock using the Fleagle heel and the Turkish Cast On. Now here is what the heel came out looking like for me. The tutorial that I followed was from Happee Knits, and if I will link that tutorial below. If you follow her tutorial, she actually shows you how to do it in more of a triangle shape. But because I wasn't familiar with make one lefts and make one rights, I just did the only increasing that I knew, and it came out looking like this. Now this style of heel fits very comfortably on my foot. I really love it, and even if I don't have the cute triangle shape, I still think that for a beginner this was really a big accomplishment for me. So first I'm going to talk about the Turkish Cast On. Now the Turkish Cast On is I'm using circular needles. I'm pretty sure you could use double pointed needles, but I am not familiar with that, and it was easier for me, to learn magic loop than it was for me to try and control more than 2 needles. So that's what I did. And the Turkish Cast On is when you have your needles, and what you do is to get the same amount of stitches on each side. What Yolanda of Happee Knits says that you do is you hold your needles like this, you wrap the yarn around both needle 8 times, and then you do your magic loop. So you pull one needle out and then you knit all the way around until you have 8 stitches. 8 stitches on both sets of needles. And what that does is, this isn't a good example because I kind of screwed this up, is it gives you, let me show my other sock, it gives you a seamless toe. Now a lot of people who, this is worked from the toe up, a lot of people who work from cuff down, they have to Kitchener their toe, but with the Turkish Cast On it already looks very seamless. Like, if you guys can see, it just looks like, I don't even know how to describe it, but I really love it. For being a beginner, this was the easiest cast on ever. And I'm starting my, I don't have any of these colors anymore. I have to get some, that's why I only have one sock. But I'm starting my socks for my brother, and this is so far how much I've gotten. So the pros about, well, I want to start with the Turkish Cast On, then I'll go into the Fleagle Heel. The pros about it is that it gives you a nice looking toe, and if you do make one lefts and make one rights, then your toe will form a triangle and it'll look better than how this one does with just random increases wherever. The con about that is when you're first starting the Turkish Cast On, it's a little finagly. I mean, you have to worry about having eight loops and those loops not falling off, and then things can get really tight. Like my tension at the moment until I become a better knitter isn't that great. So initially starting the first couple rows is really hard for me, but once I get past like at least right here on the toe, everything is perfectly fine. Like once I get past the increases, so you only increase for a certain amount of time to fit, you know, obviously around your foot. Another pro is that I just really highly recommend this for a beginner person. This was the easiest thing for me to follow. I did my initial project, which was this sock. I did have to frog it a couple times, but that's because it was too big. Now, Yolanda in her video, she actually goes into depth on how many stitches you should have, but because I wasn't using sock weight yarn, I was using bulky weight, well, bulky medium 4 worsted. My stitch count was obviously going to be different. So what I did was I increased until I felt like this was going to fit my foot very well. But what ended up happening was, to try it on, what I do is I just smoosh everything to the cord and then I'll try it on my foot. When I did that, it was way too big, so I had to decrease a lot. And then the sock came out weird, so I just frogged it. So make sure you guys just pay attention to that, because if it's too big, even now the sock is too big and it's more of like a house slipper. But just pay attention to that, because if you're using this is Red Heart yarn, if you're using that kind of yarn, then you really don't need that many stitches to increase to. And that's pretty much all the pros and the cons that I have for the Turkish Cast On. It was super duper easy, and again, I will link Yolanda's video down below. Now, I really want to get into the Fleagle Heel. Now, the Fleagle Heel is confusing at first. So in Yolanda's sock video, she links you to an article, and this article actually gives you instructions on how to do it, and this is what it's looking like. Fleagle's blog spot. But the thing is, the instructions for me are hard to follow. I cannot read patterns very well. I'm not gonna say it yet. I can't read knitting patterns very well, and I had to reference Yolanda's video. What's cool about the Fleagle Heel is that it all depends on the amount of stitches you have after you've done your toe increases, and then you have knit all the way up till you're ready to start your heel. You don't need to do a lot of math. With the Fleagle Heel, your numbers matter. You don't have to worry about the numbers on the pattern. You just worry about your numbers. So say you have ended with 28 stitches, you have increased and you have 28 stitches on both needles. So then what you're gonna do, and I'm not explaining this as well as Yolanda does, but you start increasing on the back needle. For me, this would be my back needle, until you get ready to like actually form the heel part. And it all depends on the amount of number of stitches that benefits your foot. So it is super customizable. Like, obviously my foot's different from my brother's foot, but I can still do the Fleagle Heel because all I need is the stitches, the stitch count that I came up with. So that's one thing that I really like. I try to do, excuse me, get out. Okay, I try to do mommy, I'm leaving that in there. I tried to do what's called the heel flap in the gusset, but I couldn't understand anything about that. So once I discovered the Fleagle Heel, everything worked out better. A con with that is that, like how lots of people have contrasting colors for their heels, toes, and cuffs, it's kind of hard to do that with the Fleagle Heel. As you can see, the red stops here, and this is when I started doing my heel. And then I couldn't figure out how to do a color change to at least change the cuff. I'm pretty sure if I had tried hard enough, I could have figured it out, but it kind of looks weird with the red stopping so soon and then the green carrying up. But I'm not saying that you can't do it. I just haven't figured it out. Any of my more experienced knitters, you guys just let me know if I can actually stop here and do a different color cuff. So yeah, all in all, I really highly oh, and here she also teaches you how to do the surprisingly stretchy bind off, which is easy. And then I just did a 2x2 rib. But other than that, I really highly recommend for beginners who want to learn how to knit socks, 1, do bulky weight yarn first. You won't regret it. 2, the Turkish Cast On and the Fleagle Heel are the easiest thing for us beginners. And I will link Yolanda's video down below. So if you guys have any further questions, just let me know. And I want to thank you guys so much for joining us again for episode 4 of our Let's Talk series. And I will see you in my next one.